When Skid Row's second album, Slave to the Grind, was released on June 11th, 1991, the rock world was ready. When the Billboard charts were published the following week, Slave to the Grind had become the first heavy metal album to debut at #1 on the pop charts. But many people who were fans of the poppier side of the debut album were divided on the heavier direction the band had taken. So what did we think of Slave to the Grind? And more importantly, how has it aged? Patrick, Ryan, Jeremy, Jones, and I discuss that right after this.
The air metal guru from Warren to Crew. The air metal guru. Never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And yes, it is time we talk about Slave to the Grind. I think an album that so many people have opinions on. I've talked about it before, but it's time we get a group together and really break down the album, our thoughts on Skid Row in general before it came out, and how we feel that album has aged. And with that, it's time to meet our roundtable members. Right next to me, we got RVK, the singer of the band Metalcast. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
All right. Thanks. Looking forward to it.
All right. Good way to intro yourself. Okay, right below him, we got Jeremy, my brother from North Dakota, the drummer for the band Abrasion. Jeremy, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Love this album. Can't wait to talk about the influence that it had on my life at that time. So can't wait to dig in.
All right, awesome. And right below me, which is where he likes to be, obviously, Colonel Patrick, welcome back to the show.
Such a great view from here.
I don't hear it. Hold on, let me see if you can see my. No, I'm just kidding.
The smell isn't that good, though, I heard.
Oh, God damn, it's very musty.
Hey, I shower and I clear out all the cobwebs, if you know what I'm saying. All right. And right beside me, hopefully I'm pointing at him, it's Jones from the YouTube channel Hangin' with Drummer Boy Jones. Jones, welcome back.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here. Can't wait. This is going to be fun.
This is what.
When you said beside me, we do sort of look like the Brady Bunch.
We kind of do. We kind of do.
I look up and see to the left and the right.
No. If only Marsha was here. If you know what I'm saying. What's up? What's up? All right. What the fuck? Now you got me confused. I started thinking about Marsha Brady and shit goes haywire. I'm serious.
No, I don't want to be down here. Yeah.
That's right. Be careful. Take cover, North Dakota, because whoa, here we go.
Always Marsha with you,
Marsha. That's right. I had such a crush on her. I mean, who didn't? What's up?
Who the hell didn't? Exactly.
That's right.
So we are the next in line, and I love we do this series every Wednesday night. We've had Motley Crue 1994, Poison's Crack a Smile, Wingers Pull, Def Leppard's Adrenalize, and Slaughter's Fear No Evil. So this is album number 6, Slave to the Grind. And just briefly, I've talked that I think it flopped, and I don't want to get into the quality of it. We're going to talk about the quality of it. But after your debut album goes 5 times platinum, for the follow-up, it ended up double platinum, but it wasn't certified double platinum until 8 years after it had come out. I remember reading an article about used CD stores, and they were talking about how the #1 album in the early 90s that was showing up in used CD stores was Slave to the Grind. So opinions were divided, and Skid Row was honest. Most bands back then said, hey, our next record's going to be our heaviest one yet. Not all of them were telling the truth. Skid Row definitely did. So I'm so excited to hear your guys' opinions on that album, and we're going to follow the same format. We're going to start with where were you with Skid Row before Slave to the Grind, and we're going to go that same route. We're going to go Ryan, Jeremy, Patrick, Jones. Ryan, we've only got one album to talk about. It's a big one. Where are you at with Skid Row before Slave to the Grind?
Huge fan of the debut. Got it in 98, late to the party, but I got it and I got into them in 98.
Remember, Ryan's only 26.
Yeah.
So,
Um, and I loved the debut. Got the best of, and if I recall, the best of had like Monkey Business, The Threat,
Slave to the grind.
Slave to the Grind, Psycho Love, maybe Quicksand Jesus, something like that. So I knew of those songs, but I was really, really into the debut.
okay. Okay. Jeremy, where were you at with Skid Row before Slave?
Yeah, I got it immediately. Youth Gone Wild. I saw the video right when it came out on either Power Hour or Headbangers Ball, whatever it was, and I went and got it immediately. Loved every freaking song on it, but I was surprised how heavy it was. I mean, not as heavy as Slave, but even I think like Piece of Me, kind of had that punk element and stuff like that. So I was really surprised by the rock they were putting out, especially with the first track being Big Guns. I thought it was going to be our typical, hair metal band, but no, they weren't. They were from the streets, and their cover showed it, and they lived it. So I loved it. I thought it was a little grittier than the other stuff I was listening to.
Okay. Okay. Patrick, Skid Row before Slave.
Loved the first record. Was a diehard fan of that record. I couldn't get enough of Youth Gone Wild and I Remember You. And the only song, and Ryan's gonna like cry on the inside when I say this, but the only one I can't stand on there is Can't Stand the Heartache. I can't stand that fucking song, but the rest of the album is fantastic. So
Dude, you're such a sellout.
I am
Yeah.
just not a diehard, man. Just not a diehard at all. So
All right. All right. Jones, Skid Row, the debut.
Yeah, I'm saying I was a fan. I thought Youth Gone Wild. I can't say I got it. I got it very early when I seen Youth Gone Wild, and then 18 in Life was so amazing that to me put them over the top. A quick story, just real quick. A buddy of mine, because Skid and Warrant sort of come out at the same time, and one of my best friends is still a vocalist, and Sebastian ruled his world. He wanted to be like Sebastian. He wanted to look. He wanted to sing, and the whole thing. So he was Team Skid Row, where I was more Team Warrant, and we always sort of bounced back and forth. But no, I was still a very big fan of Skid Row, and I love the debut.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. When I was 16 years old in 1989, there's not a band that I identified with more than Skid Row. Youth Gone Wild was like, it was it was like, I was like, fuck, these guys know me. That's how you feel when you get older. You're like, okay, I wasn't all as oppressed as I thought. I Remember You was like the greatest ballad of all time. I couldn't believe the lyrics of 18 in Life, that story. I would not stop listening to that album. Fuck, I wore the cassette down to nothing. I remember going to a party and people, this chick being like, well, play I Remember You and 18 in Life. And I'm like, no, we're listening to the whole fucking thing because it's that good. And, and everybody agreed. The thing went 5 times platinum. So it wasn't, and Jones, I'm kind of with you in a way. I think on Cherry Pie, I started to become more Team Warrant. But when you at the beginning, when you put Warrant and Skid Row beside each other, I was Team Skid Row all the way in 1989. So, I want to, because we have Skid Row before Slave to the Grind. I want to be before, like, and maybe we can combine these two, but your thoughts on getting the album, but also the lead up to getting the album. I mean, Skid Row was dominating rock magazines in fucking 1990 and 1991. I have a shit ton of them. So you can just talk about getting the album. Remember, we'll finish with How Is It Age, but while you're talking about getting, maybe talk about the lead up. If you were like me, somebody who was fucking counting the days until Slave to the Grind came out. I'm going to reverse order. Jones, we're going to start with you. Where were you at with the lead up, and do you remember getting the album?
Yes, the lead up was, like you said, you couldn't wait for it. I was waiting. He was waiting. He was waiting. I can still close my eyes and see Kurt Loder on MTV saying Skid Row's Slave to the Grind is going to be the first heavy metal debut at #1. And, it was just like, oh, here it comes. And then, you got the Monkey Business and Monkey Business. I seen that video and I was just floored, absolutely floored. I was like, I mean, look at them. They was the perfect looking rock band. Yeah. You had the perfect lead singer. You had the perfect looking band. They was heavy, and he still had his Playboy looks or his Playgirl looks or whatever you want to call it. Sebastian, I think that's the reason they got so much publicity. They had the songs to back it up. But Sebastian was a pinup. I mean, he was, he was dangerous. He was everything. Lord knows he's in the news all the time with the bottle incident and all of that, and the shirt and the whole thing. But no, I mean, at that time, it was a perfect explosion that just went boom. And I won't go too far into that now, but I can see where people sort of, because they went heavy. They went really heavy. You was exactly right. You made a great comment. They said they was going heavy, and damn, they went heavy.
Okay, so then were you a fan when you got it?
Oh, I'm sorry, missed the question. Yes, no, I was a super fan. Yes, I was.
Okay, so and maybe so just I mean, I'm all about, because there was so much publicity in the lead up. So then and then you can tell us your initial thoughts, and maybe maybe you weren't a fan of the heavier direction back in that day, Patrick. Do you remember the lead up to it and getting the album?
I remember it being everywhere in the rock magazines. You couldn't pick one up that didn't have a centerfold of Skid Row talking about the release, that it had the album date, that it was coming out. I remember when Monkey Business was on MTV, and you have to, at that time, that's 8th grade, 7th grade, beginning of 8th grade for me. And I'd never heard anything so heavy at that point. I was thinking, when these bands were called heavy metal bands, really they were pop rock bands. And, I don't mean that as a knock. It's just, then you heard this and you went, wow, like that is a drastic change. And I hadn't really listened to Metallica or Megadeth or any of that yet. And so to me, this was such a heavier change. And 8th grade, going into freshman year, Patrick was looking around for the ballad, skipping around the CD. And then you hear, Quicksand Jesus isn't exactly I Remember You.
Right.
And Wasted Time certainly isn't saying, oh my God, I love you and I want to be with you. And, it wasn't like that. So this had a totally different message for me. I'd be lying, I adore Skid Row, I adore them. And even to this day, I will buy anything that has their name on it 10 times.
Yep.
But this album for me took a lot of listening to get into, because it was exactly as you said at the top of the video. This was a very heavy change. And it wasn't just a musical change. It was a message change, everything. Mm-hmm. And I did buy both versions so that I could get Beggar's Day and Get the Fuck Out. Of course, I had to pass the Get the Fuck Out version through my parents, which, certainly raised some eyebrows in our house. And, but, there's always a way around that. So.
All right. Okay. Jeremy, do you remember the lead up and what and getting the album?
Absolutely. I was actually riding skateboard when my buddy called the farm and told me, hey, have you heard the new Skid Row track yet? He was like, I heard on Headbangers Ball last night. He said, you're going to shit. You will not believe how heavy it is. And it's like we kind of said, I was like, well, I'm sure it's heavy. They had some heavy stuff on the first album. He was like, no, dude, it will blow your mind. Yeah. And I'm like, whatever. And I think Bullet with Butterfly Wings also came out at that time. Am I correct in that?
Bullet with no, that's a couple years later.
Okay. I don't know why that was in my head, but anyway. So he was saying how heavy and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, I got to check it out. Well, Power Hour was coming on. That's a Canadian music station, Much Music. And sure enough, there it was. And it starts and it's got that guitar going. As soon as he hit that cowbell 3 times and he freaking takes off on that high note with the heavy guitar, I was hook, line, and sinker because I was a heavy metal fan. Megadeth, I've made pulled no punches. They're my favorite band. I was huge into Testament. I loved Overkill. I was a Metallica fan, so I was freaking stoked. And I thought, God, if this whole album is this heavy, I am in love. So then I got it, and it was. It did not sell me short. But I found myself then, I'm talking then, I found myself then missing and longing a little bit for some of that stuff from the first album. And I'm like, damn, I wish there was a couple of songs that were more like, straight up rock and roll, straightforward rock instead of this heavy stuff. And then I'm like, and there's some punk on here, which I'm pretty big into punk. I dig that. So I had some mixed feelings. The ballads left me wanting more. That I will say back then, because they didn't have the girl element. I loved the ballads that were talking to the girl. And I thought, shit, man, these aren't going to relate to the female element. I don't know if the girls at the concerts are going to get, dare I say, excited when these songs come up. They're not talking about how beautiful you are or how Sebastian wants to be with you and hold you. I didn't know how that was going to go over. So I hate to say this. I skipped the ballads. I'm sorry, but I truly did. I was into the rockers. And that's where I was during that phase of my life. I was straight up metal, but I, like I said, I still wanted a little bit from that first album, a little bit more, and the ballads left me just a little short. Then,
while I think about it, so I don't forget, if I could interview one of the guys, I would like to find out if there was a lot of pushback from the label at the heaviness of the direction. Because you got this ultimate sex symbol and you're not going to put something for the chicks,
right.
But
right.
The first album had been so successful that, and I've heard rock stars say, like, once you sell a couple million albums, the label will kind of be like, okay, let them do what they do. And so maybe the label was fully on board, but I would like to know if the label was like, guys, come on, put on, and maybe the band was like, no, this, and the band probably had a lot of power based on the strength of the, anyway. Brian, do you remember what do you think when you getting it? And what do you think of Slave to the Grind when you first heard it?
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, there was like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Faith No More, and Skid Row. Those were like the cool rock bands as a kid, And when I first got it, I probably loved this because I loved the self-titled so much. Like I said, I knew some of the songs from the best of already, but I've probably listened to this album all the way through like 3 times in the 27 years that I've sat with it. And I liked some of the songs a lot, but I didn't love any other than Monkey Business. Monkey Business was phenomenal then. I loved it. But that's where I was at then.
So too heavy?
I want to say it didn't dawn on me at that point.
Okay.
I just kind of thought it was Skid Row being Skid Row.
Okay. I graduated high school in May of 91. So it came out a couple of weeks later. Every time I went to Fargo with my mom, or even I'd be like, okay, I need the Metal Edge. If I went with, I would always be like, can I get 2 or 3 magazines instead of just one? I was so fucking amped for this album. Even just talking about it right now, I can just remember the anticipation. I was like, sure that this was going to be like Skid Row was my favorite band. I was like, and so now that I used to do this all the time, but here's the framed 2-page ad. It was on 2 pages, so I just put it on one frame. For Slave to the Grind. So when the album came out, and I don't remember, and we kind of talked that these songs weren't major hits. I didn't remember hearing Monkey Business on the radio in Fargo. I'm sure it was played other places. I don't remember Fargo playing it. Maybe I just missed it. So when it came out, I was on a church trip. My my Lutheran youth organization, we were going to Dallas. And all my best friends, I was at such a small high school. There was like groups from like 5 different high schools. We were on a bus. We drove from Fargo to Texas. It took like 3 days. It was so much fun. I hooked up with this hot chick. Anyway, um, so the album came out when we were on the road. We were in a mall in like Kansas City on the way down. And I did, my parents weren't rich, so they probably gave me enough money to eat. They didn't give me like, all right, fucking throw some money around and waste shit. So we went to a mall, and the front of the mall was filled with fucking Skid Row shit. Like, here it is, the follow-up, Slave to the Grind. Well, my best friend Dave, he fucking bought it, and he had a little CD. I had my little Walkman, but I was like, I don't think I can afford to drop $12 because we still got like most of this trip left. So he's like, I'll buy it. I'll let you listen to it. So I was like, all right. So we're on the bus and I'm watching him. I should, even talking about it right now, I can just feel it. He's like, listen. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, okay, tell me when you're done with the first song. Tell me how it is. And he's a music fan. He's not like me. And I remember you could tell he was like, what the fuck is this? With how heavy it was. He likes Pretty Boy Floyd and Nelson and I love that shit too, but you could see that it was like, so I'm like, okay, he's like, well, it's different. It's pretty good, he'd say. Second song. Finally, when you get to Quicksand Jesus, I'm like, all right. He's like, all right, here's the first ballad. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I love ballads. I'm like, ah. So then he's like, I'm like, is it a number one? He's like, probably like top 10 hit, And I'm like, okay. So I got to watch him listen to this whole fucking album. We're sitting on the bus. Finally, he gets done. I'm like, give me the fucking. So then I'm listening to it. And I was the same way. I was like, it's so fucking heavy. So I'm like, where is it wasn't like I was like, I hate it, but and then you get to the ballads. I'm like, oh, okay, Jeremy, I'm kind of like you. I remember reading in an interview, it was Jerry Miller. I remember her going to Sebastian, any ballads? I Remember You. And he goes, well, more like 18 in Life. So you get to the ballads and you're like, wow, this is some pretty fucking deep, dark, lyrical content. This is not, oh baby, woke up to the sound of pouring rain. So anyway, I know I'm dragging on, but obvious. So, the rest of the trip, I don't get to listen to it very much. Number one, we're busy. Number two, I'm listening to my cassette Walkman and he's listening to his CDs and shit. So I get home, I go buy it. And at first I was torn. I was like, this is not nearly as good as the debut. But I kept listening because back then you had to.
Right.
You didn't have other shit to do and you weren't going to play on your phone. You
It was
didn't
a big
have all this.
investment. Yeah.
It was an investment.
There you go.
When you paid $12, you're like, I got to get my $12 worth. So the more I listened to it, the more I was like, okay, you're like, well, Monkey Business is fucking amazing. You start realizing the other songs are good. You start realizing that the ballads are great. So again, Warrant had kind of, especially when Slave to the Grind came out, let's be honest, Warrant kind of took their place from being my favorite band. I was a big fan of Slave to the Grind, but I'd probably be lying if at that point if I said I wasn't a little disappointed that it wasn't a little more poppy. That's my initial thoughts.
I also think, I go back to we were at least some of us in this conversation were all with the exception, I think, of Jeremy, we were all into a more glammy pop rock.
Yeah.
And this was
Yeah.
really my first foray into
Yep.
heavy. And so it's like you almost, when you get this heavy, you have to relearn how to listen to music
Yep.
and
Mhm.
realize that there's not a big sugary hook. And
Yeah.
sometimes there is, and it's hidden in there, but you got to find it. And that comes with multiple listens and repetitive. And that's unfortunately where we are today, is we don't have that in music because people don't have the patience and the
Yeah.
investment.
Well said, man. It's a great reflection of the music scene today. Well said. Needed to be said.
So that September, I went to my freshman year at college, and my roommate was like he lived for Metallica. So then the Black album came out, and he introduced me to bands like Love Hate, Saigon Kick. That helped me. I started getting into heavier music. I was listening to this other stuff, and that made me appreciate Skid Row, the Slave to the Grind more back then.
Mhm.
So now we get into how has it aged, and you can maybe this is an album that you've listened to over the years. Maybe this week you pulled it out for the first time in forever. We've all listened to it, I'm sure, at least over the last few days. How has Slave to the Grind aged? And I'm going to start with Jeremy this time. Jeremy, how did it age for you?
All right. It's aged really well. I'm happy to say. I know for a fact the ballads that I once probably skipped, or at least only gave a few minutes of my time and invested listening to, are now my favorite songs. They just truly are. The older I get, the more I appreciate ballads. I love everyone on there. In fact, my wife and I were trying to figure out last night, of the three, which one was her favorite and my favorite. Again, I said to her, what if they would have been titled something else, something more lovey-dovey, something more love reflective? I don't know if that would have helped the songs, because the videos were pretty dark. There wasn't a lot of bright lights, and there wasn't a lot of glitz and glam. They were pretty dark to match the lyrical content. But if the lyrical content would have been just tweaked ever so slightly in the titles, maybe they would have done better. I don't know. But the ballads have definitely aged even better than I remember. Monkey Business is still the phenomenal banger that it is. In fact, I'm going to use Ryan's word. It's a chugger now. It was then. It always will be. That song is that's a song, and it's on a different level, in my opinion. Slave to the Grind, I still like, because I am into that heavier side. But that's a song that, again, makes me want more of the original Skid Row back, and still does. I just, it's a little bit too heavy in my mind for my Skid Row. That's just selfish. So that one didn't age quite as well as it did then. Back then I was like, yeah, it's badass. It's got the double bass, and it's got the fast drum. I don't think I like it as much now as I did then. The rest of the songs I love still today, except for Creep Show. Creep Show, I could kind of take or leave. I listened to it a couple times these last couple days, and I'm like, all right, give it another spin. I just not digging that song for whatever reason. It doesn't grab me in the feelers. But Mud Kicker, that riff on frickin' Mud Kicker is as heavy and balls out as you could ever want it to be. And then the lyrics, we stand accused, but you lie, varicose stained finger. All of it is just like sticking it in your face, and I love it. I love it as much today as I did then. And Riot Act, it's punk. That's a punk rock song, and I love punk. Shameless plug here. Megadeth, I Don't Care, has a punk song out right now. It's very good. Anyway, so I love Riot Act. We actually played that in Abrasion. We played it because we loved it so much. We bought the tablature for the complete Slave to the Grind album, and we did Riot Act and Monkey Business, and so it aged pretty darn well. But the ballads are definitely my favorite songs on it now, with the exception of Monkey Business. That one holds a special place. But aged very well. I could do without Creep Show. Slave to the Grind doesn't get my goat like it used to. So that's where I'm at with it. I still love it. It's still an A minus album. But I guess I'm more into the slower stuff maybe as I get a little older. I don't know.
I led off last Saturday's Hair Metal Mansion on Rock 101 KLOL. It's every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time. I kicked off the show with Riot Act from this album.
That boy. Yes. Good stuff.
All right, let's go to Jones. Jones, how was it aged for you?
Oh, guys, when it come out, I thought it was the best thing I'd heard. You guys made a very good point. If it wasn't for this record, I would not like heavier stuff that I do today. That Patrick said it earlier. This was an introduction for me, to true heavy metal. I seen them on the tour. On this tour, Soundgarden opened up for them, and then after Soundgarden went off, Pantera opened up for them, and that got me into Cowboys from Hell, 91, Metallica's Black Album. I wasn't a Metallica fan. Then you go back, so I give Skid Row a lot of credit for getting me into heavy metal, heavy metal. How is it aged? I still listen to this record 15 times a year. It's in my top 5 of all times. It's one of the greatest records of heavy metal that I've ever heard. There's not a bad song on it. I was wondering who was going to be the first one that brought up Mudkicker. Mudkicker is one of the best heavy, groovy songs I've ever heard. Now, I'm sorry, Jeremy, but I love Slave to the Grind. I mean, I can't. My favorite ballad on the record is Wasted Time. The emotion that Sebastian puts at the end of that song is just mind-blowing. So, yeah, it's in my, I've got my Dog Eat Dog. Sorry, RVK. I got my MC94. I got Psychotic Supper, and I got Slave to the Grind. That's my top 4, and I'd have to think on 5. But it's definitely, I love it, and I still can't get enough of it. I love it.
Fantastic.
Wow. Okay. Well, speaking of RVK, Ryan, where are you at now with Slave to the Grind?
I don't know. I'm super biased. I mean, let's just say I feel a certain way towards Sebastian. So there's a part of me that if anything strays from my precious Skid Row debut, I'm going to maybe dislike it. But after my recent week and my long deep dive into this, I've determined this. If I want to listen to hard shit, I'm going to turn on Judas Priest, Leatherwolf, Racer Rex, Fifth Angel. Okay? I fucking love the harder side of the 80s metal. But that's the beauty of this genre, is I can go from Danger Danger to Sabotage and bang my head just as hard. And sometimes I want to rip out Wingers Hanging On, and sometimes I feel like cranking Judas Priest Painkiller, and it feels just the same. I still bang my head the same. But I never go to this record for that reason. I never say, I want some hard shit, I'm going to listen to Slave to the Grind record. Now, I'll turn on Monkey Business, but if I want some hard shit that's glammy, I'll go to like Tiger Tail's 6X over this all day. But I've determined this, like, either Skid Row lied through their teeth to get the record deal and they played to the teenage crowd and they achieved massive success, but the real Skid Row was the slave shit, or they completely sold out and forgot that like 3 years prior, Sebastian's hair was to the fucking ceiling and they were now trying to be a hairband Pantera. And to me, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, either way, this album will always remain in my collection. And but you guys gotta remember, I'm a big Can't Stand the Heartache guy. So is this gonna? But anyway, and I mean, but check this out. The reason why I said I don't know, and I'm so like biased and confused, is like I'll run through the tracks. I'm not gonna go deep at all. But Monkey Business, love it. Slave to the Grind, ripping, love the song. The Threat, I love it because it could have been the hardest song on the debut, and there's really standout, memorable moments. Quicksand Jesus, Psycho Love, amazing vocals, kind of confused pre-chorus. Beggar's Day, great pre-chorus, and I love how they stop and they chant during the chorus. Living on a Chain Gang, love it. Creep Show, cool lyrics. Okay, you guys are going to find this interesting, but because I was a little bit removed from this album, In a Darkened Room. So I was listening to it and I said, where have I heard this part of this song before? And now I know where Three Doors Down got this part of the song, like the song that goes, well, hold me when I'm here, ride me when I'm wrong, in that Three Doors Down song. In this song, they say, well, tell me when the kiss of love becomes a lie. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, where have I heard this before? Oh, yeah, one of the biggest songs of the 2000s. And you probably got to believe that the Three Doors Down guys were, rockers and before they were, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was an interesting pick up there. But Riot Act, killer, Mud Kicker, wasted time, get the fuck out, love it. So like half the songs I say, love it, killer vocals, ripping song. Like I know it's there, but it ain't the debut.
Okay.
And I just don't go to it that much.
All right. Appreciate the honesty.
Good job, RBK.
That's
That was
right.
great.
That's right. All right, Patrick, Colonel Patrick, where do you think, how do you think Slave to the Grind has aged?
So, I said earlier how this was my kind of gateway to heavy music. And as I, went through my freshman year and my sophomore year, and I really started to let the heavy metal Patrick out. And, you go from being the kid that's trying to fit in to, I don't give a fuck now, I'm just going to be who I am. And I don't care if people are picking on me for a Poison shirt or whatnot in 1995, 96. I fucking wore my Skid Row shirt that my buddy got me at the Subhuman Race tour all the fucking time through high school as I ripped this fucking record and listened to it all the time. And as I said earlier, you really had to listen to it for a period of time to understand how to listen to heavy music, and it's not, I'm not trying to say that you can't just put it on and enjoy it, but when all you've known before is, Heaven and fucking, I Won't Forget You, this is a little bit of a task to put yourself in. And so some of the beauty of what Skid Row did at that time that helped me with this record was they put out the fucking VHSs. So, you bought Oh Say Can You Scream and you bought Roadkill. And as I watched those and laughed my fucking ass off, I'm also listening to the fucking new songs in that, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for it. So it was like almost like you were totally suckered in to this whole world of what this was. And how could you not become a massive fan of that? And that was when I began to just idolize these guys and all of them. And, at that time, during Slave to the Grind, you were reading the magazines, but you didn't realize how much of a douche Sebastian can be in life. You just saw this cool loudmouth guy that everybody wanted to be. So that's why I have this huge place in my heart for that guy, because he got me through some really rough times. That period of my life was very difficult, and Skid Row was my thing. This album aged phenomenal for me. I'm with Jonesy. I listen to this thing 10, 15 times a year. I don't put it in to listen to it straight through, but when tracks of it come up, I'm all about it. In a Darkened Room, I think, is probably the best ballad Skid Row ever did in my book. I'm that and October. What is it? October song on the last record. Yeah, those two are some of the best ballads I've ever heard that band do. There's no doubt that Snake and Rachel and Scotty wrote an incredible record here. And as much as I like Wasted Time, In a Darkened Room is my jam on that record. I love that thing. I love Beggar's Day. I love, for the same reason Brian did, the breakdown in the middle there when they start chanting the chorus is just fucking epic, I wish I could have heard them sing. I've seen Skid Row quite a few times. I've never heard them play that, but I would love it if they fucking did. Seeing Skid Row eventually and seeing Sebastian as many times as I have, the songs on Slave to the Grind, when they get played live, get the biggest pop. So to me, that, and over 18 in Life and I Remember You, every time I've seen them at least, the Slave songs do better with the crowd. And to me, that is an indication that this record has aged extremely well also. And so I've gotten to know those VHS tapes, those so well. Roadkill, those were the ultimate companion for growing with this record.
Yeah.
And those aged well. And as Jones said, to echo that, this was a gateway into Pantera, which I'm a diehard Pantera fan. I love Slayer, and it got me even into heavier, way heavier music than that. You know, I love a lot of death metal and Cradle of Filth and just some of the really aggressive things that are out there. This was the gateway for all of that. And I'm with RVK said something too. I'll end on this. Ryan said something that was absolutely phenomenal, and that's why I clapped. When I want to go with, I can go with Danger Danger and listen to fucking the first Danger Danger record. 2 seconds later, I could be listening to, Cradle of Filth, and 5 minutes down the road, I'm listening to this record. That's the beauty of this music, and is that there's room for all of it. And this album aged phenomenally. I love it, and I still love it. It's not my favorite Skid Row record. Subhuman Race, obviously, as I've talked about that a million times. But this record is a tight number 2 for me.
Cool.
I thought they only had 2 albums.
I just real quick to jump in. You mentioned In a Darkened Room.
Yeah.
And it just hit me how poetic was In a Darkened Room beyond the reach of God's faith.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I'm a religious spiritual guy, but who has not been right there where you're at the point that even you don't think God can help you?
Yeah, that's right, bud.
Man, that lyric just punches you
right
in
on.
the face. I mean,
Just right
punches you right. I'm sorry, but yeah, that when you said that, it just popped in my head, and I was like, "Whoa, I forgot all about that."
Jonesy,
Go ahead.
oh, I just have one thing for Jones, and I couldn't agree more with you. I'm right with you on the spiritual thing. I do want to ask you this, though, and I'm really curious. I'm not judging. What makes Skid Row, what makes Sebastian's voice pleasing to your ear and Mark Slaughter's unpleasing? Like, obviously there's more grit, but what's the main difference there? Because they both hit on that falsetto quite a bit in that higher register.
Good point. I think Sebastian just has more range.
Okay.
Where Mark, to me, when he goes up there and he gets into that, to me, Sebastian doesn't really. Maybe because I'm just don't know, but to me, when Sebastian goes up high, it don't sound like it's falsetto.
I don't think that's falsetto. I was just gonna.
Okay.
Like it feels like Mark is falsetto, but Sebastian, it's just the upper range of his range. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's fuller. It has more depth to it than just a falsetto.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yep. I just had to ask that. I was curious.
Yeah.
How about the better question for you 2 drummers is hotter drummer, Blas or Afuso?
Blas
all day long.
Yeah. Sorry, Kai. Afuso, you're too, man. But
But I remember in the road. I think it was Roadkiller. I can't remember if it was Roadkiller or Say Can You Scream, but they're in like Japan, and all these chicks are like, Bon Jovi. He's like, no, I'm not Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
If you're getting confused for John Bon Jovi, you're doing pretty well.
You bet.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta tell you guys, the 2 guys that I lived with in a tent for a year in Iraq, we're on a text chain, and one of them just bought a guitar, and he sent us a clip of him, like, he's like, something that he wrote, and he's like, just wrote this little tidbit today, first week with the guitar. And the other guy responded with, now you need to do a lot of drugs to fine tune your skills. Anyway.
There's some truth to that. Yeah, there's some truth to that.
They got sober and they suck.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so speaking of sober, I remember the first time I saw Say Can You Scream, there was a video store where you could rent it. I'm sure it was probably for sale somewhere, but I didn't know, but I saw that it's a video store. I'm like, holy fuck, Skid Row's got a home video. I rent it. I bring it to my freshman year of college, bring it home to my apartment, because I'd moved out of the dorms about halfway through to live with a buddy. I made up some lie about, it's financial hardship. Really, I just wanted to live in an apartment with my buddy. So I watch Oh Say Can You Scream. I was like, holy fuck. I was enthralled with that movie. And if you remember, there's a scene where Sebastian's like pounding Jack Daniels. I watch that movie, I get done with it, I rewind it. I'm sitting by myself in my apartment. I have a big bunch of booze. I sit and I get absolutely annihilated, shit faced. Watching it again, I end up throwing up and skip class the next day. Anyway, there's my
Hey,
story
that's
about-
Skid Row, baby. That's Skid Row right
I
there.
still think that's the greatest home video, and Roadkill is right up there too.
Yeah.
But Oh Say Can You
Pantera
Scream is
3.
like the greatest home video of all time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Rio de Janeiro. Hey, I
Yeah.
can quote that. Yeah, quote
Coming
him.
to
You
take
know,
me
all
away,
the
haha.
signs, all
What's
the
that?
signs that they were falling apart are in Roadkill. Especially the fact that Sebastian's in his own bus. I
Yep.
always love the line there where he's in the bus and they're trying to get in, and he's like, it's the old in through the outdoor.
Outdoor. Yeah.
Yep, you could tell he's a lot of those scenes in Roadkill, he's on his own,
Yeah.
eating on his own and all that shit.
Yeah.
Okay. How did it age for me? It's one of the greatest fucking rock records of all time. I love this thing so much more now than 18-year-old me thought back then. I liked it a lot back then, and it's become like Warrants, Dog Eat Dog, like those albums that we talk about. I put it right up there with that. I don't know if it's a top 10 album of all time for me. And keep in mind, I have like 4,000 CDs, but I bet it's in the top 15 and maybe the top 10 on the right day. Monkey Business, that opening fucking riff, and then when those two, and that scream comes in, holy fuck. How did that thing not blow up rock radio? How, you know, like I've said it so many times, there was 5 singles from this fucking album.
Yeah.
None of them. Wasted Time got to number 88. You know, when I think about it, I'm like, well, wasn't this album massive? Yes, it was massive because it debuted at number 1. It was massive because the first album had done so well. But I don't remember any of these songs being on the radio, but they all should have. Monkey Business is one of the greatest songs ever. I think Slave to the Grind. I've talked before about the song Inside Out by Warrant of Dog Eat Dog. I can't listen to that song without just fucking wanting to go nuts. Slave to the Grind, the song is that for me on this album. The only songs that they're still really good, but the only songs that I don't think are amazing are Psycho Love, Living on a Chain Gang, and Creep Show. Quicksand Jesus, amazing ballad. I love Get the Fuck Out. In a Darkened Room, we were just talking about the fucking lyrics. Holy shit. That was always my favorite ballad throughout all the years. But I get closer and closer to Wasted Time as time goes on. A song about addiction. It's about Steven Adler. Amazing lyrics. How did that thing not blow up? And I'm such a punk fan, so Riot Act is another one of those where you're like, holy fuck, here we go. And then that riff in Mud Kicker, jeez, what the shit is that?
Yeah.
So I'm with Jones and Patrick. I don't know how probably 15, 20 times I bring it out, but also I bring it out because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit and listen to the whole thing. Even the songs that I said aren't my favorite, because I just feel like it exists as a single entity. Not that I don't listen to just songs from it, but when I pull it out, it's like, all right, better nail down 50 or whatever minutes to listen to this whole thing. It's shockingly good. Sebastian has always said, I'll spend my entire career trying to top Slave to the Grind. That's his eponymous, hopefully that's the right word, album. And I know that a lot of people, and I get it, they prefer the debut. but Slave to the Grind has easily passed the debut for me now. I will go listen to songs from the debut from time to time, but I pull out Slave to the Grind all the time. It's a fucking masterpiece. I'm just like the Metallica Black Album. Obviously a great record. Even I love that. Remember when I got to college, my roommate fucking we would listen to that all the time, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get this shit. But I feel like Slave to the Grind should have been right there with it. It should have been something that sold 8, 10 million copies. It should have set Skid Row up for the rest of their career to be one of those bands that is still playing to 10, 15,000 seat arenas.
Yeah.
And it kind of breaks my heart that it didn't. And Patrick mentioned, Patrick or maybe Ryan, it gets harder and harder with all the shit that Sebastian does to be a fan of him. But if you take that away and you just listen to the album as an entity, it's fucking amazing. And I'll throw this out there now. Snake, Rachel, Scotty, Rob. I'm assuming we're not going to get Sebastian, but I'll throw it out there to Sebastian. The channel is getting fucking big. We worship that band. We look at Snake and Rachel as two of the greatest songwriters of the generation or in rock. I think we need to talk about the Thick Skin album at some point. It's amazing. The newest album with Gronwall is fucking great. Come on, talk about the history of the band. Let's do a deep dive. Let's make the definitive Skid Row interview. That's your open invitation. We fucking love this band. I fucking love Slave to the Grind.
Money.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
So,
Dude,
did
that's
it?
awesome. And I met those two guys, and Snake and Rachel, on 2 occasions. And it was so cool. They were so kind for being like, superstars in my eyes. I was in Vegas in 2005 or 6, and we cruised into this bar that was right next to Hard Rock, and it was Vince Neil's bar. And of course, I was dying to see Vince, and he wasn't there that night, but the Skid Row guys were there, and they were hanging out with amazing ladies, and we got a picture with them in a booth.
You might want to share that.
Yeah, I have it. I'll show you guys. I'll send it to you.
Right.
And then again, I saw him on the Thick Skin tour in a little club in Santa Clara, California.
Wow.
And after the show, they came out into the crowd and they took pictures. And I have another picture, and they're just looking like little monsters, badass, like arms over the top of us, like doing this and everything. And I was just like, fuck, these guys they were like as cool as Kip Winger was. And I saw Kip Winger in the same club, not the same night. And Kip was incredibly polite too. And it's like these superstars in my eyes. Yes, they're playing a club, but dude, to us, it's like meeting God, and they took the time to be very kind. So those 2 guys I have massive respect for, and they're super kind and talented.
Fantastic.
I met
Cool.
Sebastian twice. And obviously briefly. I mean, and obviously he's just meeting a shitload of fans. He, like you're not seeing you're seeing like them in fan mode, but he was awesome. He was like fucking A, man. He was great. So I feel, everything that I've experienced was great. You see the shit in the media. I did a video about him, telling the girl to fuck off and kicked her out of the, like you're just like, come on, man, grow up along with the rest of us. But Sebastian, I'm a massive fan. I truly am. And did anybody see there? You got a picture with him. Fuck, I never carried around fucking camera. I would give anything to have pictures with some of those guys.
Yeah.
That you met back in the day. Did anybody see the Slave to the Grind tour?
Yeah, I did. That's one they was Soundgarden opened up for
Oh,
them.
that's yeah. You mentioned that. Okay. Okay.
I
Well,
want
I
to say,
go ahead, Patrick.
I want to say too that it's kind of a bummer that Skid Row didn't, and this isn't a knock at them. It's just a bummer they didn't celebrate the anniversaries of either the first record or Slave to the Grind. But
Yeah.
Sebastian went out and played both records in
Both of
full
them.
on both tours, and he said he might even do the Subhuman Race album as well as like a 2 night thing in
Oh,
one market. He's
sure.
not going to tour the country on
Not
it,
a
but
tour. Okay.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's just going to do something like that. But it's
You
kind
might
of a
sell
bummer that
six, seven
they
tickets.
there's no third record. But it's a bummer to me that they didn't do anything to celebrate those. I know
Yeah.
they released them on vinyl and things like that, but there's no super duper special edition, version of Slave to the Grind or anything like that that's got bonus stuff all over it. So it's kind of a bummer.
You guys was right about the I bought that box set, the vinyl box set, and Anthony, I think did you do a show on that, right?
Yep.
No,
Yep.
nothing bonus, nothing, but they did release two of the best home videos, and I'd give anything if they would put those out on DVD. You can find them on YouTube and watch them like that. And I've still got the old VHSs, but golly, Oh Say Can You Scream and Roadkill is put it all in a box. Maybe Warrant will do that. I know they keep talking about that too. So hopefully we'll all get that what we want.
I saw the Slave to the Grind tour with Pantera, and I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for Pantera. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I think I've said this before. I think it was a mistake to go out with them. You were not only did you alienate a lot of your female audience
Yeah.
on Slave to the Grind, then you go out with another, and a lot of bands were like, hey, the guys are the more loyal audience. I'm not shitting. I love Slave to the Grind, but I wanted that to be so successful that I think they played to like 3,000 people, which, nowadays you would be glad as a pig in shit. But in 1992, when you're like, here, Skid Row is supposed to be one of the biggest bands in the world, and they had Pantera. I thought if they would have gone out with like a love hate or something like that.
They did go out with GNR and open the Use Your Illusion tour.
Right. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, obviously that's a smart move, but anyway, it sucks that you look back and you think here's this amazing album, and it flopped. Flopped.
Yeah.
Compared to the first album. None of those songs were hits, and so anyway, I beat that horse to death. But
I think Ryan made a good point. Either they lied their ass off on the first one or they was true. Honestly, I think they really wanted to be a heavy metal band. I mean, going even with what they are still doing and have done, I think they just Snake and John Bon Jovi, they got hooked up and got on the New Jersey tour.
sure.
And at the time, but I think the Skid Row, I mean, Slave and Subhuman, and even the later albums, I think that's more of who they were.
Well,
I challenge you to think of this, guys. Think if Slave to the Grind had been their debut album, and then they would have released the self-titled. What would that have been like? In
it would have been a
dichotomy of rock and
monster
roll?
backlash.
Yeah.
It would have been like,
Yeah.
oh, you fucking pussies. Now you're trying to go for the pop hits.
Yep.
That would have been a massive sellout. I don't think Slave to the Grind was viewed as much as a sellout as much as that would have been. I agree. But I have often thought of that. What if Slave was first and then that second one came out?
But
That'd be crazy.
You know how, like I kind of said earlier back in the day, it was like every band, when they started recording their new album, they said, this is going to be the heaviest album.
Yeah.
I think a lot of bands meant that. I also think a lot of record labels were like, if you want us to keep financing this, we are going to want a little bit more of whatever it was you were doing before. And I think Skid Row's first album was so massive. They were so dominating rock, media, that I think the record label was kind of like, better just let them do what they want. And I think that was pretty honest. But I talked the Stevie Rochelle interview. They put out What Comes Around Goes Around. They start writing for the second album. They talk to Jason Flom, their A&R man. He's like, sounds like you guys are getting heavier. Stevie's like, yeah, we love what Skid Row did. This is the new direction. And Jason Flom's like, well, Skid Row sold 5 million copies of their first album. The second album hasn't done near that. They were doing big hits on they were selling records because of ballads and shit.
Yeah.
Stevie's like, but no, we want to go heavier. You know what happened the next day? They got dropped.
Walked them. Yeah.
So a lot of bands, like I said, I think a lot of bands, when the record label tells you to do something and you're thinking, I want their support, I need them to get behind this album, it gets pretty easy to go, you know what? All right, we'll pop it up a little bit. We'll write a cherry pie if they ask for it. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That brings us to the end of our epic, and this was so fun, discussion of Skid Row's Slave to the Grind album. We would love it if you went in the comments. Let us know what your memories are. Do you remember getting it? What do you think of it back then? How was it aged for you? With that, it's time to say goodbye to our Roundtable members. RVK from the band Metalcast, always a blast having you on, man.
Thank you. It was good to dig deep into this thing again, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Jeremy from the band Abrasion, my teacher brother from North Dakota, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the next album, guys. Thank you for being here tonight.
And Colonel Patrick, as always, does so much for the channel. You are awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Love you guys. It was a good time.
All right. And Jones from the YouTube channel Hanging with Drummer Boy Jones, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys. I have so much fun doing these, and it's an honor and a privilege to hang out with you guys. So can't wait to do the next one.
All right. Hey, if you go in the description, you will find the link to Hair Metal Mansion that I host every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time on Rock 101 KLOL. You'll find the link to Hair Metal Guru merch. Get yourself looking all badass, kind of like Burt Reynolds and shit. You'll find the link to FNA Records, who are putting out new releases from some of our favorite 80s bands. Like, subscribe, what the hell, ring the bell, and whatever you can do to support the channel. Truly, I really do appreciate you being here. Until the next video comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care of yourselves. You gotta admit, my English writing skills are pretty top notch.
They're pretty good.
That goes in the fucking montage.
I don't have AI writing that shit, man. I'm writing that shit. All right,
Boy.
here we go.